Uh-huh. I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods, yeah. One in particular, I'm just a messenger, let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you, you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box, and you cannot compare them at all. So don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, yeah. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, woo. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable podcast. I'm Matthew Bruning. We are back after a little bit of an extended absence, a little bit of sickness going on here at my household. So took a couple days off, playing a little injured today. Throat's all messed up, but we're going to get through it. Matt is here. We are going to continue talking, hopefully, about the NFL draft. We're going to discuss that here in a minute as things just continue to blow up in our face. There was a massive trade that went down as well. What was that, 2 days ago now? 3 days ago?
Darnold was yesterday.
Was it yesterday? God, it feels like it was forever ago with the way this cycle goes. We're going to talk rookie running backs as well, setting up an episode with a special guest that will be joining us on Thursday. But before we get to that, Matt, how are you doing on this beautiful Tuesday?
Doing pretty good. I feel like I can breathe a little easier this week. For those that don't know, I work for a church, so Easter and Holy Week, probably our busiest work days of the year, was in for at least a little bit of 8 straight days before yesterday. I'm still trying to remember what day it is.
Yeah,
I thought it was Monday again today. I was like, oh, I have a show. I'm back at work. I'm like, oh, it's Tuesday.
Yeah, I feel like that until like Sunday afternoon hits, and I realize I'm about to have to go back to work, and I'm like, fuck, my whole weekend's gone. Like, what just happened? So, yeah, it's not been fun. So we were just talking off air as things are changing here. It seems like daily with the NFL draft, and so we're gonna continue with it. But there's a realistic shot that we might be firing up Mock Draft 3.0 and starting all over again on Monday if things continue to blow up in our faces like this, because we started off 1.0 and then obviously San Francisco 49ers made their trade. Then we have the Darnold trade made today, and there's a lot of rumors going around with Mac Jones and everything else. So we'll continue it a little bit because we like the content. It is kind of fun, but be prepared for 3.0 to be firing up on Monday as me and Matt start this all over and have to go through like 25 picks to try and catch up before the NFL draft comes.
Or maybe it's really been a problem because you and I start by ourselves. So it might be next Thursday. We'll wait and we'll make Dennis responsible for 3.0s.
Yeah, that might be even better. Speaking of the things blowing up in our face, let's start with the Darnold trade because that's a little bit more fun than the 17-week season. Sam Darnold is traded to the Panthers, and the Panthers did not have to give up much to get him. A 6th-round pick this year and then a 2nd and a 4th next year, which is insane. I thought they would at least have to have given up 2 seconds, maybe some kind of first. I never really thought if it was going to be them that they would have to give up the 8th pick in the first round. I did not believe Darnold held first-round value, but I thought maybe 2 seconds would make more sense. I think it's a great landing spot for him, though. You guys know that I was talking up Teddy Bridgewater quite a lot last year, being with Joe Brady in that offense. It turned out that offense was much better than we all thought. Teddy Bridgewater was just okay. And Darnold did obviously come into the NFL with a lot of hype. A lot of people thought he could do something 2nd overall pick in his draft class. Goes from Adam Gase to Joe Brady. We've seen Adam Gase has been, Interesting, I guess, to say the least, for a lot of players in their careers. So what is your thoughts about him now going to the New York Jets? Likely going to be there for 2 years. They've got him this year, and then they can pick up his last year, his rookie 5th year, which I believe is $18 million on the cap, which would make sense because I think they can get out of Teddy Bridgewater after this year as well. So your thoughts on Sam Darnold going to the Panthers?
I wrote for Dynasty Nerds looking at Sam Darnold when I thought the Jets might do the smart thing and build a piece around him, and try to build up. Darnold going to Carolina, obviously think he's going to get better coaching. The best weapons he's played with his entire career. He had Robbie Anderson before when he was in New York, but Christian McCaffrey's there, DJ Moore is there. Somebody put Ian Thomas. I'm not sure I would put that as an asset. Also remembering that Carolina signed Dan Arnold. So I don't think even they think Ian Thomas is the answer. But you figure Carolina in this draft they went entirely defense in the first draft for Matt Rule. I wouldn't necessarily think that they're going to, I think a lot of mocks, even we mocked them taking a tackle, which makes much more sense right now at pick 8, the way the draft is setting up. They probably will end up with an optional choice of either Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater at 8. The way it's tracking, it seems like we're headed toward 4 quarterbacks going on the first 4 picks, and then probably impact receivers going in the next 3. So Carolina could have their first choice, or if they still want to keep building up defense. But I think it makes sense to improve that offensive line, to try to build into a young quarterback. Darnold, was taken number 3 overall. A lot of people have pointed out he's still younger than Joe Burrow. You just think of him having been in the NFL for a long time. He was really young when he came into the NFL. The Jets situation wasn't great his rookie year. They didn't have a lot around him. And then the 2 years with Adam Gase didn't do him a lot of favors. I kind of have to wonder, too, in 2019, it seemed like he was poised to come out strong, and then he got mono, which mono not only knocks you out for a few weeks, but is one of those kind of illnesses that saps you of a lot of strength and energy. Supposedly he lost quite a bit of weight. People forget he finished really strong. The Jets finished 7-9 in 2019. They had a disastrous first half, and Darnold missed a lot of time. And then he had that really infamous, sad Monday night game where the Patriots destroyed him, and he got caught on tape saying he was seeing ghosts. And I think that stuck with him. You forget that he finished 6-2 down the stretch. And looked like he was putting it together, which is why last year I thought maybe there was a chance the Jets were going to be that kind of surprise team. Their team looked awful. It seemed like it was bad chemistry. Any player that was a good player or had value made their way out of there last year. It looked like they were totally kind of stripping down for parts and rebuilding. So I don't know that we've ever seen the best out of Darnold. The concern that the gamble that you're taking with the trade is what you said, that he's on that rookie contract, but they have to decide if they want to pick up that 5th-year option before he ever gets to play a regular season game for them, because they have to make those 5th-year option decisions during this offseason. And I thought that was kind of the tricky thing with Darnold. That being said, I am with you. I thought that was a very low price tag. And I think we've seen people with varying opinions about what this does for him fantasy-wise. I threw up a poll on our show account yesterday that just closed. Who would you rather have in Dynasty? And the options I put: Sam Darnold, Tua Tagovailoa, Daniel Jones, and Jalen Hurts. I'll let you answer.
Tua, Daniel Jones,
Jalen Hurts, or Darnold.
I would still slightly lean Jones because I just think I've seen a little bit more out of him. But out of the other 3, I'd probably have Darnold second.
Yeah, I voted Jones too, but especially since he's got continuity, a little bit of continuity there, and they've really built in the offense around him. But I think all 3 of those guys have questions and opportunities before them. I was interested in the poll votes. Darnold got 40%, Jalen Hurts got 33%, Jones and Tua got 13%. So it's kind of a little bit surprised about that. I think a lot of people I saw yesterday were like wheels up for for Sam Darnold, he could move up close to QB1. I don't have him that high. I still think QB2. He's in that range, I would say, with those guys that I put in the poll where they could take off, they could not. If Teddy Bridgewater doesn't end up getting moved, they're probably going to have a competition during the offseason, and you would think Darnold would win, but I wouldn't put 100% certainty on it.
Yeah, I would expect him to. It's funny, I was listening to can't remember who it was on Sirius XM talking about this. It would have been either yesterday after the trade happened, or maybe it was this morning, where they were talking about, the Panthers are now trying to move Teddy Bridgewater, but likely won't happen because of how much money he will be on the cap. And they were talking about there's a chance that the Panthers still might cut him. And like, if they did, where's a good place for him to go? And then another person was like, oh, it'd be great for him to go to the Jets because he'd be a great, guy to come in there and help, mentor Zach Wilson and all this stuff. So it's like,
if they wanted him, they would have taken him in the trade because 6th round pick, not that much.
Morning. Where are you at that it's morning right now?
Australia, maybe.
Oh, Australia. We are very big in Denmark, but I don't think it's morning in Denmark, is it?
No, because England's 5 hours ahead of East Coast time, so I think it's the middle of the night there. Probably across Europe.
I'm horrible with times, but morning, Montag. Morning. Thank you for jumping in here. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I would expect him Austria even better. I like that. I like that very much. It's
really early morning.
Really early in the morning. My goodness. Thank you for getting up that early. So,
it's probably staying up if it's 25 minutes after midnight.
Yeah. There's some people like me. I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning for my job. Maybe it's just one of those jobs. You never know. But it'll be. I would imagine that Darnold would not lose out to Bridgewater, and I think Darnold is, a very talented quarterback. I don't think I hate to say it, but I think a lot of it was Gates because we've seen promising moments from him. So I agree. You mentioned earlier, he's going to have obviously a ton of better weapons around him. And then adding a guy like CMC too. I think that's part of the Jets probably. They tried it out with Le'Veon Bell, just didn't work. Whether that was Bell, the offensive line, he never really had a good run.
Really try it out.
Well, Douglas tried. Now, whether was it Douglas that signed him or the other GM? Because Douglas brought in
GM before him,
right?
That they got rid of and then had Gase running GM because that was the big thing. Adam Gase said he wouldn't have signed him, didn't really want him, and you could tell by the way he was deployed that they didn't know what they wanted to do.
So that's obviously going to be very interesting. We know that leads likely to what's all the rumors we've been talking about now for the past couple of weeks in them taking Zach Wilson. So that'll change the future of their franchises now as well. And I was listening to Rich Samini actually this morning, who's a beat reporter for the Jets, was talking about, and I don't disagree with them, that a lot of people are kind of curious about this because they don't see that much of a difference in the two guys' games. So is it just one of those things where maybe it was just they felt like they just needed to move on from Sam Darnold now and try and get a fresh face in there? I don't know that that's exactly going to work out the way they think it is.
So it seemed like a little bit the way they were talking about it is they realized that they because I caught a piece when I was watching NFL Network before we came on and they were interviewing Joe Douglas. The NFL Network guys pointed out he used the phrase, "we needed to restart the clock," which I wonder if that is a way of saying we didn't do enough building a franchise in 3 years to be that close to having a rookie contract for our franchise quarterback expire. So we need to give ourselves a little bit more time.
Yeah, that's definitely. I know. I followed him because I was a huge fan of Mike and Mike in the Morning. As I know we've been doing this show long enough now that you know that, and obviously they did moved on to a different show, but. Mike Greenberg, who does, I think it's Get Up now as a show called on ESPN, is a massive Jets fan. And I saw him tweet out something, and I agreed with him that, out of everything that's gone on the past few years for the Jets and Sam Darnold's probably been, one of the least reason the Jets have been that bad. And I don't disagree with that statement. I don't think it's all been on Darnold. Has he made bad plays? Yes. Has he been bad at times? Yes. But if you look at, a Baker Mayfield, who obviously came out with him, was picked right ahead of him, the Browns started to build around Baker, and we were finally able to see, we saw flashes, right? Those first couple years. And then last year, we finally got to see everything get put together with the coaching staff and a general manager that have built a team to help Baker, not just make it all be about him. And the Jets never did that. So it's going to be intriguing with him going to Carolina.
So the crucial time was, we forget Sam Darnold's first game as a pro. He came out there and looked really great on the road on Monday Night Football in Detroit. That was when Todd Bowles was his coach. That was Matt Patricia's first game. Everybody, including myself, were picking Detroit, thought they were going to have an easy win. He goes in there, he gets it. He had some flashes that first year. That kind of shows you where in the development of a team and a quarterback and everything else, it's that coach decision. Either they're paired together and they grow together, or in the case of the Jets, they decided they wanted to move on from Bowles at the end of that year. And I think a lot of us thought it felt like a really quick, really snap decision to kind of go with Adam Gase, which didn't make a lot of sense based on what we'd seen kind of fizzling out in Miami. And that seems to have set them back the last 2 years. It looked like Gase's first year. They started off a little bit rough, but they were kind of putting something together on the back half. They went 6-2. They finished 7-9. They were actually quietly a pretty good team in the second half. But last year, it just completely, the wheels came off the bus. And now they're basically starting over again. And when you have that young rookie quarterback, it can be hard when you're changing schemes and coordinators and play callers every year. Sometimes it's better for the player and the team just to kind of start over. And now this new administration kind of coming in, taking over, Robert Saleh reshaping the defense. They have a new offensive coordinator. They can start over with a guy they want. I'm going to laugh too if it's not Zach Wilson. I mean, what if all this time, Kyle Shanahan's considered this offensive genius, and everybody's saying he locked on as Mac Jones being the best pick, and the Jets are like, you know what? We could take whoever we want, or it's going to throw it. That would, to me, be the best part.
I would love it. I was talking to someone about that today. I'm like, how crazy would it be if, like, you're hearing all this talk? It's definitely Zach Wilson and Mac Jones, and then draft day comes up and it's Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and everybody's like, what just happened? It's not at all what anybody expected. So yeah.
It's hard to believe the 49ers go to 3 and only have one guy they're willing to take, because that seems like you're setting yourself up. If you're trading up to the number 1 pick, you can have only one guy you're willing to take.
Yeah.
If you're trading up to the number 3 pick, you better have 1A and 1B as the options you're happy for, because they gave up so much. Even if Mac Jones is the guy they're wedded to and he goes at 2, they have to take a franchise quarterback there, because you gave up so much. You don't do that to take a tackle. No offense. Yeah,
I mean, again, I know Ray Garvin, who's someone I really respect, loves Mac Jones. I've been very high on Mac Jones for a while now too. Again, I have him above Zach Wilson in my rankings, and I have him right there with Trey Lance as well. So I don't understand it, but it's going to make that Thursday night really fun, regardless, whether it is now what we think of the top 3, because as we were just talking about off air, now all the rumors are that Atlanta's looking to possibly trade back, and then Cincy might trade back because Penei Sewell is all of a sudden not quite the prospect, quote unquote, that everybody thought he was going to be. So this has become a very, very interesting draft in a matter of a week, which is why it's kind of killed our entire mock draft, because everything has just gone up in smoke. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's talk about the NFL did approve moving to a 17-game schedule. Obviously, that makes things very interesting for us as a fantasy podcast. It likely gives you now one more week. I would think, at least for me, most of my leagues, I'm pushing everything back a week, and then just having what I guess that is technically week 18 now is going to be the week 17 of before, where likely you're not going to play. But it changes a lot. I mean, you're giving a chance for NFL record books to now be broken easier because everybody's getting in one more game. You now can never have an 8-8 season. ever again. Like that's just gone. So
that's why Jeff Fisher permanently retired from coaching when he heard this
does
news.
make sense. That does make sense. So it's gonna be very intriguing. I saw that it seemed like a lot of vets did not like this, but a lot of the younger players did, and I'm assuming that's just because they realize the chance, or I guess I don't want to say realize, because they're maybe looking at it as they're going to get more money now because they get the one more paycheck. But what was your thoughts when you saw the 17 game schedule got approved and will be in effect for it's the 2021 season, correct?
Yeah, this year. They've already announced the 17th. It's going to be interesting too, I guess, the way they've solved when you have the unbalanced schedule, the exact same home and away games gets tilted. They got rid of one of the preseason games. So to me, I thought, okay, that means they're pulling the start of the regular season up a week. But no, they're pushing the end of the regular season out a week. It's now not ending till the second Sunday in January. And the NFL doing all of us dudes no favors after 5 months of basically walling ourselves off on the weekend watching football. They have put the Super Bowl on Valentine's Day weekend. Thank you very much, NFL. Really, really looking forward to. My wife's like, February 13th, isn't that late? Yes, it is. Please don't think too hard about it right now. In terms of fantasy and scheduling, I'm guessing most leagues are going to go a week longer. I don't know if we'll actually know what the end of the season looks like in terms of when players play and how good it is to have a week 17 championship game for a couple of years. Because whenever they make these kind of changes, you have to go through a couple of cycles and really feel it out. But, you know, more football sounds good to me. More fantasy football sounds good to me, although I feel like we always feel a little bit tired at the end of the fantasy football season.
Yeah.
You're ready for the off season, and now that's gonna get delayed. But in March and April, when hope springs eternal for everyone, it sounds good. Be curious to see what it does to players, to stats. You know, do they start resting in these games where you're feeling more comfortably ahead? Are you more prone to start resting star players because you know you have to go longer? There's been talk, I think one of the reasons younger players gravitate toward it is there's been a lot of talk that this will lead to expanding the rosters permanently and expanding the practice squads permanently, which would make sense to me.
Yeah.
But kind of a lot of unknowns. This was a huge point of contention passing the CBA, and CBA, people forget, came up for ratification right when all of COVID was kind of breaking out.
Yeah.
And they set a hard and fast deadline. A lot of people believe that had the voting extended a week or two longer, it would not have passed because of the 17-game season, but it passed and it's here, and they can't do anything about it for 9 more years. So I was moderately, I get that they're still displeased, but I was moderately annoyed that players brought that up, like we need to revote and stuff. You can't now. I mean, you already started reaping the benefits. It was because you have that new CBA in place that owners agreed to redistribute the losses from COVID and things like that. You have to give some stuff up. So we'll see how much that carries into actual off season.
Yeah, I'll be curious. I mean, I did hear some people talking about it today, and I wonder if maybe with the NFL, there was talks that they want to get down to like 2 preseason games, that maybe that doesn't, help sway the players a little bit more, because then they're losing another game really on top of that. So they're getting that kind of rest. I don't
think they can go down to, so now this is the part I forgot. The way to balance the unbalanced schedule is in year A, which is this year, all AFC teams get an extra regular season home game, and all NFC teams get the extra preseason home game. And then it switches. So you always are having the same 10 home games that you had per year, which is how they make money off the gate. If you take away another week out of preseason, they'll have to figure out it'll be unbalanced. Some years you'd have 9, some years you'd have 10, and they do make money. I've bought preseason tickets. We go, we spend money. you know, I love going to watch Denver.
They do a lot of, a lot of teams that I've seen. Obviously, I've lived in Texas, but I've gone to Browns games. I've gone to actually Panthers games because my youngest brother is a massive Panthers fan. So, like, we've gone different places, and I know that I've gone to Houston Texans game. Most of the places when they do the season tickets and stuff, like, you have to get preseason tickets. You can't just buy regular season tickets.
It's a 10-game package. It's however much it is for a 10-game package.
So, so what I mean by, even if they don't take that third game away, though, you're likely going to see that become the fourth game of the preseason where none of the starters play. So and it might be something that we really need. You know, that's something we talked a lot about in last offseason when we found out there was no offseason, no training camps, no preseason games. Like, that really hurts the Philip Lindsays of the world who made their names in these games, actually made a way onto a roster. So I don't think that's a bad thing, even if they do that and allow, hey, this is that, you just talked about hopefully expanded rosters. Okay, well, let's give these guys a shot now to play in this third preseason game to see if we can find somebody.
I know that a lot of speculation in the NFL is they're not going to drop and agree to go to 2 preseason games until they get an 18th regular season game, which, if you remember, owners originally wanted to go to 18. They settled for 17 in this CBA. I think doing 17-3 is what they're going to balance out. It's hard to imagine them agreeing to anything that would take away of the opportunity to have a game in the stadium, because while that's not the only way they make money, they do make a significant share off that.
Yeah. All right. So, again, not necessarily a bad thing. It's an extra week of fantasy football. It does really kind of, February. I guess it's a good thing for me because me and my wife don't really care about Valentine's Day. We do the whole show each other love all year long thing, so we don't really celebrate the Valentine's. So that doesn't matter to me much, but I could see how that might affect a lot of people and their relationships with Super Bowl being on Valentine's Day.
Babe, what are we doing for Valentine's Day? We're going to a Super Bowl party.
Yeah. That's gonna, a lot of people not very happy about that, but hey, it is what it is. We do what we do, because we love it, and hopefully our wives will realize that we love football, and at least let you go to one Super Bowl party every 10 years. You get that one in there.
The only cool thing about that is it may also, a lot of people have talked about, we wish the day after the Super Bowl was a holiday.
Yeah,
getting that deep into February increases the chances it falls on President's Day weekend. I didn't look to see if it does in 2022, but that would give you
not me, but a lot of other people get off. My job doesn't believe in holidays.
If you won't celebrate Valentine's Day, you don't deserve President's Day.
It's not that I don't want to celebrate it. I still get her some chocolates and some flowers. We don't go all out because my wife, not that she listens to this podcast and would back me up anyways, because she wants more and more all the time, which is understandable. But my wife is spoiled as it is, so that she gets more than one day. I promise you that. Really,
Valentine's Day is the following week in 2022. I just looked it up to see if we got that bonus. So you just have to drag yourself. Well, you have to drag yourself through a couple of weeks, but everybody else just has to drag a little bit that immediate week after.
Unfortunately, my job, they only believe in like 4 holidays a year. So, and it's usually the ones everybody gets off for. So anyways, let's talk about something more fun than my job, and that is the rookie running back. So we discussed our top 5 quarterbacks and then some in the previous episodes, kind of went a little bit deeper. I did love, actually, I think it was last, it wasn't Thursday, was it? I don't think Dennis was with us, so it would have been a week ago. We talked about our top the rest of the quarterbacks, and I was talking about
Speaking of which, Charlie Weiss unveiled his top 5 college quarterbacks because he's does morning drive on NFL radio. Which of our tier 2 quarterbacks?
Kellen Mond. Is it Mond?
That's number 4.
That's what I was gonna bring. That's what I was gonna bring up. So I was like, I love how literally that day last week I was sitting there, I was like, I just don't see it with Kellen Mond. And then he goes out and has his pro day and launches like some 80-yard pass sideways, and everybody's like, oh my God, Kellen Mond's gonna. I'm like, shit. I will say there are a lot of people in I'll say the industry, as in the NFL, that have been saying they think Kellen Mond is going to be good. And he has improved every single year. And I'm pretty sure I did say that. I just don't.
I think Chris Sims had Kellen Mond at one point, had him like as QB2. He's come back to like 4.
At one point, Kellen Mond will be at 1. He'll be at 3, 5, 6 with Chris Sims. He likes to get a quarterback in at each spot. So whenever that does happen, he can tweet out his rankings like, see, I told you so. I've learned that about Chris Sims. So
you're saying you don't follow his rankings as gospel?
I do not. No, I saw this. Well, just to clarify, in case anybody watching or listening, because I'm not trying to like take shots or anything. Jared Wackerly, who's at the Nerds with You, tweeted that out because he was like, "Hey, because he tweeted out something about how he's nailed like the quarterback rankings the past couple years, but then it was pointed out that like he consistently changes his ranks, and then he tweets out the one that makes him look the best. So like my quarterback ranks haven't changed in like 6 weeks. They are what they are. They're not going to change. Like, I don't care where they land. It's not going to change. Like these are the guys I think in that order. So that's just me personally though. Everybody's allowed to do them. That's all. I'm not trying to take shots at Chris Sims. He's phenomenal at what he does. He creates good content, good TV. So anyways, running backs. Who's your number one? Because I believe we have the same number one running back.
Najee Harris.
It is Najee Harris for me as well. What is it that you like about Najee Harris? And are you at all worried that he could – see, Derrick Henry's not the right thing because Derrick Henry ended up being good. But are you at all worried that he could
Mark Ingram?
Mark Ingram was pretty good too, I think. But more of like I don't think he's Trent Richardson, so let's not go that route. But like maybe when I say –
few people can be Trent Richardson.
When I say Ingram and how about when I say Ingram and Derrick Henry and the fact that maybe doesn't live up to the hype we're building as an RB1 or maybe isn't quite – I guess the way I should put it is a lot of people are worried that because last year he was supposed to come out. He was a senior, obviously, this year. And he got a 3rd-round draft grade, which is he said he wanted to go back to school to prove that he was better than what the NFL was giving him. Rumor was that he got a 3rd-round draft grade on him. I felt like he went out this year and had a phenomenal year, but a lot of people are like, well, he pretty much did the same thing he did the years prior. So why should we bump him up that much? So what is your thought process on that?
I don't know. I thought he looked pretty incredible. He looked pretty versatile. With any of these running backs, it's what kind of opportunity and commitment. Somebody on the NFL radio, one of the days I was listening, was talking about Derrick Henry, and that it wasn't until Arthur Smith and an offensive coordinator that really believed in him and was willing to just give him the touches that he was able to maximize. And you had the flip side. Some of us had concerns about Josh Jacobs because he had split, coming out of that Alabama system. And I think when they've given him carries and touches, he's looked good. Harris, to me, looks like he has more capability to be involved in the passing game. I think it depends a little bit where he ends up. If he went to Arizona, I think that could be phenomenal. A lot of people have mocked him going to Pittsburgh. You see some potential to be kind of a Le'Veon Bell type. I think he would instantly be better than the trio that they've currently got there. But if you go to the wrong place, anyone can have, we all think DeAndre Swift is really good, but last year he didn't always get the opportunities. You saw Cam Akers at the beginning of the season. It was like, maybe he's not that great. When he finally started getting some touches, it takes these guys a little bit probably to acclimate to the pro game. Usually the biggest question for rookie running backs is, can they hold up in pass protection? Najee Harris had an incredible season. He looked so electric when he had the ball at times last year. I know I've heard you say you don't think this is the greatest overall running back class. That's probably true. So maybe he lucks out a little bit in coming out into this group. But somebody has to be number one. That's who I went with.
Yeah, I'm going to say I don't even think it's relatively close. Like I love the second running back that I have number 2. everybody talks about him now. I was talking about him back in like week 2 of the college football season because some of the things that he was doing, and I've liked him since. And I don't even think it's necessarily close between those two. I think Najee is the clear running back 1 in this class. I really like him, not just based on what I did a little video that I know you saw, you retweeted it, which I appreciated. Like his ability to not just run you over with his size, which he's a very big guy, moves very well with his feet, but his ability to make you miss as well, I think is an underrated part of his game. I mean, he had the second most missed / avoided tackles in college last year to the number 2 guy on, I think, pretty sure he's the number 2 guy for both of us. So he is very elusive when he needs to be. The only thing, in my opinion, he doesn't have that home run speed. But again, I'll say that doesn't matter for me as a running back. Like, not every time a running back touches a ball, they're going to take a ball to the house. Like, it's just not going to happen. But Najee Harris consistently gets yards every time he touches the ball. And that's what you want out of a running back. It's a Derrick Henry. Like, can Najee take it to the house? Yeah, we've seen Derrick Henry can too. But what does Derrick Henry do? He gets you like 4 yards every time he touches the ball. At the end of the day, that adds up. And the difference with those two is as well, Najee is a much better pass catcher. Like, he is actually a good asset in the receiving game. So I don't think I care. I shouldn't say I don't care. If he ends up going to like Dallas and he's there with Zeke, that's going to suck. If he goes to like a team where I don't want to say if he ends up splitting the ball somewhere, as long as it's not like a CMC, a Barkley, a Zeke, like one of those top guys that are lucky to go fucking to Detroit and it'd be him and Swift there or something like that. I know. But as long as he doesn't go to a team
Baltimore.
like that, yeah, I'd hate that too. Like, as long as he doesn't go to a team like that, I really think that he will be, if not, because we've seen the past couple of years, there's always that one rookie running back that ends up being a top 12 asset. As long as he doesn't go to a team like that, I think it's going to be him, or he'll at least finish right around that range. Like, I don't think he's going to be a bust in any sort of fashion. I agree that this class, really outside these top 3, it takes a little bit of a drop off. He, for me, is like the most for sure thing. I don't see any way that he bust.
That was kind of what I was going to – I think you and I have the same top 3 because it seems like there's 3 guys and then some guesses.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, I'm trying to respond back to somebody about the Midwest Fantasy Expo. So, number 2, I'll go first here, and I'm pretty sure I was looking at your list earlier. I don't have it pulled up, but it is the same person for both of us, and that is Javonte Williams out of North Carolina. And like I said about Najee Harris just a minute ago, you could make the same argument about Javonte Williams. He can do everything. He can make you miss. Great in the receiving game. He will definitely run you over. His contact balance is elite, and I hate throwing that word around, but I really do believe that. Watch some of the games where he had against Duke and Miami specifically. He had 2 runs against those teams where, I mean, he's just running dudes over. The Miami one, there's a play, I think they're on like the 10-yard line, and he gets the ball in his running, gets a guy tackling him on his feet, and finds a way to get out of it and keeps his balance up and ends up getting into the end zone. Incredible contact balance, extremely good receiver as well. The one thing I loved about him and watching his game, in compared to who is both our RB3 and Travis Etienne's receiving ability, is that Javonte catches the ball all over the field, not just kind of like in swing passes in the backfield. Very soft hands and almost immediately gets upfield once he catches the ball, which I think is massive. He almost turns into like a wide receiver once he catches the ball. He doesn't dance or anything. He's immediately looking to gain yards, which I like. Very much like Najee, I don't think it matters where he goes. I think he will produce. The only thing I am worried about with
please
him...
not Baltimore. Baltimore and Detroit,
well, yeah.
If you are listening, please, for the love of God, do not draft a running back.
Yeah, because
or do not draft one of these running backs.
I traded a lot to get up into 1 and 2s in a couple of my big dynasty leagues so I could get one of these guys. So I'd really love if you guys did not screw me on this. But I don't want to say I have doubts that Javonte would bust, but I have less doubts about Najee than I do Javonte, and it's just because 1 year production in a very good offensive line at North Carolina as well. There, Michael Carter, who also produced very well as well with him. Little bit did not love the size that he came in on his pro day either, but I don't doubt his physical play with the way he played last year. So I don't have as much doubts, but I think if I had to pick one or the other between those two and him and Najee, I would still lean Najee and being the one I have no doubt would bust. But Javonte, I mean, he's right there for me. I think he's going to be a phenomenal running back as well. And again, the same thing with Najee. He just doesn't have that home run speed. He's not going to beat anybody in a foot race to the end zone, but he consistently eats up yards. I was trying to remember what his was. I know Najee is so like a no gain loss run is a percentage of the runs they had based on like them getting no gain or a loss on the line of scrimmage. And I know Najee was second, and by looking at running backs who actually had a significant amount of carries last year, let me sort my column really quick because I wasn't going to talk. Oh, okay, it is sorted. So Jared Patterson ended up being the number one with Buffalo with 11%. Some of that I do think comes in with competition, but then Najee Harris was second with 12%. And then where did Javonte comes in sixth with 15%. So not great, but Najee, again, just showing that he continually gets those positive yards on every single play. What is it that you liked about Javonte when you were watching him?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the last month a lot of people have kind of fallen in love with him. And one of the great things, if you follow the fantasy football community on Twitter, come draft time, they pull clips for you and they drop them up there. And watching just some of the power and some of the breaking tackles, looking at his numbers, I was just impressed. I think he has a chance to be good if he goes to the right team. It wasn't that hard to put him up there. It seems like I said, it seems like there's the same kind of three. I know it was interesting, who we're getting to. ATN went back last year. And, at the time he went back, it seemed like that was a great move for him and he was going to jump to the top of the group. Didn't have maybe as flashy of a last year and now has kind of ended up third in that pack. But any of those three, I think, has good potential. I do feel a little bit bad for ATN because almost every mock draft has him going to the Jets.
Yeah, that would not be great. So let's talk about ETN then. He is third for both of us. And still, this is where we just talked about our tier drops. This is kind of where I'm with you. There's a little bit of drop off the player that comes next, which we do have different fours. So that'll be when we get to kind of have a little bit of discussion here. So my biggest issue with Travis Etienne, I've said this on the Debbie Debate, any other podcast that I've gone on, when I'm scouting running backs or watching tape on running backs, my biggest thing is there's two things that I look for that I care about when I'm watching a running back. That's vision, lateral speed, or lateral agility. I don't care if you can take a ball to the house home run speed. I've mentioned that now a couple times. I'm talking about Najee and Javonte. Really don't care about how good you are in the receiving game. It's a plus, but it's also not a negative if you're not that good at it. So two things with Travis Etienne. He has gotten better every single year as a receiver. Let's not forget, over a year ago, he was talking about how he was scared to catch the ball when the ball's thrown to him, which, again, he improved on. He looked better his senior year. But if you actually go back and look at most of the plays when he was in the receiving game and chart his receptions, they came behind the line of scrimmage in like swing passes. So you're not going to get that all the time in the NFL, especially if they want him to actually go out and run wheel routes and stuff like that. Now, I'm not saying he can't do it. Watch it. There's a game against, I don't remember who it was now off the top. Man, it may have been like an NC State or something. He makes a phenomenal catch. Now, so I'm not saying that he can't catch the ball. He can. To me, Javonte and Najee are just a little bit better at it. So that's a little bit, you're splitting hairs with these three guys. But taking the smallest of details, you're trying to figure out which one you like more. That boosted both those guys up above Etienne a little bit. And I just don't think Etienne has great vision. And I hate comparing him to this player because I also did like this player a lot coming out of college. And I do think that he's better than this player. But what it reminds me of sometimes is Ronald Jones. He has a ton of athleticism, great burst, elite speed. I mean, he will win many races to the end zone if he gets into the open field. And if he gets into the open field, he is extremely dangerous. But I joke, if you're running into the ass of your offensive lineman, you're not going to be getting into the open field. So that's not something it's something he can improve on. That's not something that once you have bad vision, you can never improve it. It can be improved on, and he has, in my opinion, improved on that as well. But still seeing that as a senior at Clemson, which is a very good team. Now, their offensive line is not what North Carolina's and Alabama's is, but it's still a very good offensive line. That worries me a little bit going into the NFL, and I'd be curious to see where he goes. The Jets likely might improve their offensive line here. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. They're likely using their second pick, it seems like, on Zach Wilson. So I don't know how great it's going to get, but that worries me a little bit. So ETN, thoughts on him and why you have him as RB3?
Yeah, I mean, I still like him, but like you, he seemed to struggle a little bit more his senior year. His yards per carry was down. Was the worst of his college career. You look at a guy like that too. The window for running backs and ultra productive time for running backs is so small. Sometimes you wonder if the guys that play all 4 years and have significant carries all 4 years, if that doesn't begin to wear them down. And you're talking about a guy that had almost 700 carries alone. That's a lot before, and like you said, Clemson, they were competitive every year. They were in college playoffs fighting for national championships every year. So playing pretty significant competition. I still think he's going to be good. Be curious to see where he goes. The Jets are trying to rebuild, and we should probably give Robert Saleh, who we all like, a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. It just, when you're looking at it from a fantasy perspective and hoping to grab one of these guys and get great production, that scares me a little bit more than maybe going to a Pittsburgh offense that seems a little more robust, or even Arizona, where it seems a little more further along and robust.
Yeah, I mean, if he goes to an Arizona, I do think that he would work well there, just because I think Kingsbury could design up some very interesting things from. Obviously, San Francisco would be a great landing spot for any of these running backs we're going to talk about.
But San Francisco doesn't even have a second anymore, right? They had to give it up to get up to where. So, yeah. I think they have a first and they don't pick again. I'm going to look them up. I thought they gave a second, but
I'll look here. Let me see here. Draft order. I have a page up. Second round. Yes, they do not have a Jaguars, Jets, Falcons, Dolphins, Eagles, Bengals, Panthers, Broncos. So no, they pick again. Oh, they pick again at 43. They do. Yeah, 43. Yeah.
So that could be.
Yeah, I guess could fall that far.
The big question, last year we only saw one running back go in the first round. That wasn't until pick 32 with Kansas City. Do you think any of these three go in the first round?
I would say. Right now I'm like 50-50 a running back goes in the first round. I don't think more than one. I think it's just one, and I think it'd be Najee. And I'll be honest, because of the way a lot of people, and I hear NFL people value ETN, I wouldn't be surprised if ETN's the second running back off the board, even though we all like Javonte. It seems like Javonte has really kind of moved himself over ETN for a lot of people, but I wouldn't be surprised if ETN's the second running back off the board. But it for me, like I don't. Much like if you guys watched our live show and we all saw Clyde Edwards-Helaire go at 32, and like, really? Like, of all the running backs, that's who you're taking? I feel like I wouldn't be that shocked if Najee was the first running back off the board and goes in the first round, but I'd be a little bit, okay, like there, so they are going to go
that's
running
what
back.
You're saying running back one off the board, Kenny Gainwell.
I mean, maybe if he goes to Kansas City. Well, no, who won the Super Bowl? I mean, I wouldn't be put it past the Buccaneers to do something like that. Why not? So maybe.
Oh my God, everyone that drafted Keyshawn Vaughn just started drinking.
So I don't know if ETN would be a great fit with Pittsburgh, though. I definitely think that'd be more of like a Najee Javonte fit, and me personally. But
I think they want somebody with a little more power.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's typically been the Pittsburgh wants a little more power. That's not really what I think of with ATN.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's not. He can run around you. He's not really running through you that much. Yeah. So this is where we see our first difference in the ranks. So I'm going to let you go first because my running back 4, I'll just say now, is your running back 5. So I'll let you talk about yours because your running back 4 is not in my top 5.
I went with Michael Carter. I think it's a toss-up again. I've seen a lot of people in different spots. I was impressed. He's another one that had kind of 4 years of contributing to North Carolina. He actually, for as much as we talk about Javonte, and I still like him better, Michael Carter had over 100 more yards on one fewer carry, had a better yards per average, caught the same amount of passes. He didn't have the touchdowns that his teammate did last year, but he had a pretty solid year. He had more than 1,000 yards each of the last 2 years. So I guess part of it's experience and production. For me, it was kind of hard to go back. A guy that I don't quite have in the 5 I looked at is Chuba Hubbard too, who if he would have come out last year, probably would have been higher up in the group and had just an astonishingly abysmal 2020, which seems to have dropped him. And I think it's the other thing that's making it really hard is there was just you did not have a uniform college season or a uniform college season experience for these guys. We talked about this with quarterbacks too. Some of these quarterbacks didn't get to play. Trey Lance did not have a 2020 to put on tape after a great 2019. So he didn't have the bad games to maybe make you think twice, but he didn't have the good games to build on it. He creates questions. Some of these guys unfortunately rolled out there and didn't have great seasons, probably for various reasons, hard to tell. So I wouldn't say my confidence is incredibly high about anything after. I felt like there was 3 that were easy to put somewhere at the top, and then we'll see where some of these other guys get drafted.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the guys that really, I think, somewhat is going to be affected by what you were just talking about is a guy that you actually just mentioned, and that's Kenny Gainwell. I mean, he had a really good 2019, but we did not get to see anything out of him in 2020. Obviously, had a really good pro day. He weighed in over 200 pounds, ran really good, looked really good. So he's a guy that he's my 5. I mean, I like him a lot. My biggest fear with him is I don't think he ever really carries a workload. Phenomenal receiving back, though, and he's a guy who can be lined up anywhere, so it's going to make him dangerous. That's why I joked if he went to Tampa Bay and became the receiving back. But he's one that I'll be interested to see where he lands because I really like Gainwell, but I just like Jamar Jefferson a little bit more, who is my 4 out of Oregon State. Now, I've been toting him for years. I feel like me and a friend of ours, and I guess would you say the owner or the leader of the network here, and Ricky Valero is another guy who's been very big on Jamar since the beginning. He had that phenomenal freshman year, broke out actually as an 18-year-old at Oregon State, was a 3-star in that class. He wasn't actually even supposed to be the starting running back, but injury happened to Artavius Pierce, who's in the NFL now. And they put Jamar in. He was so good that he did not relinquish the job back. Then his sophomore year, we expect him to take a step forward, got a high ankle sprain, missed a couple games, and when he came back, ended up in a timeshare. So if you look at his stats, if you're trying to figure out what happened, massive dip. He was splitting time with Artavius Pierce. But then this junior season happens, and I do think he kind of got screwed a little bit. Being in the Pac-12, they handled things poorly, just like the Big Ten did. Yeah.
Nobody even knew if they were ever going to play.
Exactly. But if you go and look at what he did, he put up over 150 rushing yards. I believe it was like his first 5 games. He only played 6, I think. And 200 rushing yards in 2 of them. He had really good games. And I know a lot of people say, well, Pac-12 defenses aren't that great. There were a lot of good defenses. Now, the biggest one, Oregon, their defense was down this year. I think they were like the 50th ranked rush defense. So take that with a grain of salt. Again, I'll say my biggest thing on why I like Jamar Jefferson, vision. His vision is phenomenal. He sees the hole, and despite what his 3-cone drill tells you, because if you go look at his pro day, it was not great, and his 3-cone drill was not good. He has great burst and great lateral agility. When he sees a hole, he gets through it. He's very good at hitting the cutback lanes as well. He's elusive when he needs to be as well, especially when he gets out in space. He's a good receiver, and I think he's got really good contact balance. Now, he's not a How do I want to put this? He's not like a Javonte or Najee Harris. He's not running you over. There's a lot of times that he does get brought down by the first tackler, which is obviously a con on his game. And again, he doesn't quite have the long speed. He was taking more yards to the house this year, which is a little confusing for me because watching it, there were some where he was outrunning guys, but then you look at his 40 time and he ran like a 4 or 5 something, which is not great. It's not horrible, but it's not great, which would lead you to believe he's not beating anybody to the red zone. And I'm curious and wondering if maybe, unfortunately for him, he just had a really bad pro day. And it wasn't necessarily he's that looks that bad statistically. And based on that, maybe it was just a bad day. But that could end up affecting him because that's what the NFL teams are going to go on because they have such limited tape on him from this year. And could that affect his draft stock? But I really like Jamar. I see him more as like a all around like an RB2 type player. Like he compares very favorably to Mark Ingram, which is someone we just talked about earlier, who, again, if a lot of people expected him to be
years.
I think Jamar could do that, but I don't think he's an RB1. I think if for fantasy, you're looking at a guy who could be a very consistent RB2 at times, especially if he ends up on a team who maybe has a starter. He gets in that pass catch role, maybe a change of pace back. And if there's an injury, he steps up for you. He's a guy that I think, I've seen a lot of rookie mocks have him in like the 3rd round. I'd be thrilled to get him in the 3rd round and stash him because I think he's got a lot of upside. But again, we talked about there's a drop after those top 3. I hear the argument on Gainwell, Michael Carter, Trey Sermon's another guy who's right up here in this top 5 for me. These
that's
guys.
what I was going to say. There's the top 3, and then there were 6 for me: Carter, Jamar Jefferson. I have Chuba Hubbard, Kenny Gainwell, Ramondre Stevenson, and Trey Sermon is in that next group. And you could probably convince me on any given day to move them up or down.
Yeah. I was trying to pull.
It really broke my heart not to move him up, Ramondre up a little more after hearing Felix's impassioned speech about him.
He's very big on Ramondre. So my next guys, and all these guys are in tier 2 for me, and I think are all, again, have fantasy upside, but it is a little bit limited, is Jamar, Gainwell, Sermon, Carter, and then Khalil Herbert. I really like Khalil Herbert. Yeah. He's a big guy I'm really a big fan of. And Elijah Mitchell is moving his way up there, I'll be honest. And I said this on Twitter because I posted my rankings yesterday while I was at the doctor. I have not watched a ton of Elijah Mitchell, so Pro Day caught my eye. I've seen a couple games. I'm going to go back and look more at him. He's jumped a bunch of guys. Ramondre Stevenson's my RB12 right now. And I like him. I
like the story.
Yeah, I don't see him really being much of a guy at the NFL level, unfortunately.
It's just going to depend for some of these guys where they go. I have Herbert up there in the top 10 too, and then Mitchell at 11 right now. So that it's all about the same guys.
Group of the same guys, kind of mixed around. Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see. We're going to have John Lobb from NFL Draft Bible and SI on with us on Thursday, and Dennis will be as well. So it'll be interesting to see where some of these guys come in. We won't just talk running backs. We'll talk wide receivers, quarterbacks as well. He's big on Zach Wilson. And, I was actually in the middle of, since I know how much you respect Felix and how much he loves Zach Wilson, we're actually in the middle of a text message thing going on right now because some people that he truly respects are like completely bailing on Zach Wilson, and he's completely torn on what to do. So it'll be fun to have a little bit of talk about Zach Wilson with John Lobb.
Tis the season where every day it feels like new information.
Someone else is getting attacked.
And then that's in that some ways it's what'll make the 29th, 30th and 1st exciting, but also it'll make it exciting that it's over and they're on their teams and we can actually see what they do.
Yeah. So since we're already almost at an hour and
and our mock draft sucks now.
Mock drafts messed up. We're just going to skip that for now. Maybe we'll address it some on Thursday if we have time. Get John's opinions on some of those picks as well. Cause John is a phenomenal, not just like draft. The dude knows college very well as well. It puts me to shame. And I think I know the college game very well. So maybe it'll be fun to get his opinions on some mock draft stuff. So we can do that. We are going to talk Falcon and Winter Soldier. So we saw a phenomenal episode 3. Hopefully it redeemed the series a little bit in Mr. Fox's eyes. Because if you were here last week, he was not quite that thrilled with what happened in episode 2.
That gif of Zemo alone dancing. bounce it right back up.
All right, so let's talk about it. Kick it off. What was your first thoughts on Zemo here? You get to see a lot of him, which I was not expecting at all. I thought he was going to be like a main protagonist, which may still happen, but definitely took a different turn than I was expecting in episode 3.
Yeah, and Daniel Bruhl is such a good actor, a guy who's done a lot of feature films. You get to see a very different side of him than we saw in Civil War, where he was pretty much just the kind of antagonist, didn't have a ton of personality and depth. You get a lot of personality and depth here. Had great interplay with Sam and Bucky. Their adventures were interesting. I don't know about you, but towards the end, when the lab's under fire, I thought he was bailing on them, and really he was just going. He's like, no, we're all on the same team. Now that does not mean I think he won't turn on them at some point. I'm 100% sure he's like a human version of Loki. I think just about the moment you start to count on him being a good guy is when he's going to turn on him. But it's a lot of fun, a lot of personalities. Really dialed back seeing the new Captain America. I think he only appeared in like one or two scenes, so that made me a little happier. We got to see Sharon Carter finally. We've seen her in the credits the past couple of weeks. Get to see a little bit about what happened to her, and that's really the strength. Those 4 actors were really good. I thought the action was good. The directions it took was really good. They seemed to be having a little more fun. Like there was no real need plot-wise for them to insert that shot of Zemo dancing at the nightclub, but it's a heck of a lot of fun. It seemed like they maybe found themselves a little bit.
Yeah, it was interesting. I'll start with Zemo, and then I do want to talk about Sharon Carter. It was very interesting twist. I think they've made him a very likable character with the way he kind of handled himself with those 2 as well. I agree. They played off very well, the 3 of them off each other. I hope that he doesn't end up going bad. I'm with you that I could see it happening, but it'd be very intriguing to see if maybe they find a way to like just keep him doing this. Cause I mean, he was very honest. He didn't want the Avengers to be around anymore. Like that was his whole goal earlier. And they're not necessarily around at the moment. So maybe it's just one of those things where he's just like at the end, maybe they just kind of let him go, like we saw.
Well, their goals are kind of aligned. He's been anti-super soldier from the jump. That's why he did all those kind of things to kind of expose it. And right now, Bucky and Sam are anti-super soldier. So
yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. If something does happen that maybe ends up turning him against them or vice versa. But so far, it looks like those 3 are going to be at least very fun for hopefully at least one more episode, if not more, moving forward. Sharon Carter was very interesting to me. Now, obviously, we knew she was going to be in this. If you watched the trailer, you saw at least in one trailer, I saw that she was going to be in the series. Things have not gone well for her since Civil War, which is interesting because things flipped for everybody else, it seems, but Sharon Carter, who is still an outlaw and still wanted, I guess, by the United States of America. What does that mean for you? And do you think that there is a way for her to get redemption?
Yeah, and obviously she wants to get to be able to come home. You kind of got the sense that all those agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. were a little bit out. Even when you see, Samuel L. Jackson's character in at the end of Spider-Man, it doesn't seem like they're exactly working in the same government channels that they were, Nick Fury and his team. Obviously, she was viewed a little bit differently too, because she broke the law when she got the materials back to help Steve and Sam and Bucky because she believed in them. But it also seemed like she found kind of carved out a new role for herself. It was interesting. She seemed to be fine with her setup. It was hard to get a feel for exactly how hard she tried to get back, and to get forgiven. Hopefully we'll see some more. I'm sure she'll have to come, have more to do with the plot, and you can see Sam kind of intervening for her. But it carries on the theme that I think we've seen in the show. One of the things that we both liked, we saw Sam is this hero doing all these things, but has major financial problems, struggling to save his family. Bucky got a pardon, but really has no, focus, no purpose, struggling, going through therapy. It's what happens when they're not on the mission, getting a chance to see the toll that this life and all these things take on them.
So yeah, I'll be curious to see what she does moving forward, and if they can get a pardon for her, if she'll continue to be at all part of this universe or not. I don't know how that's going to work out. Obviously, she has a major connection with Kat being Peggy Carter's
I think it's
niece. Okay,
I thought it was niece.
So it may be niece. I can't remember. I think we looked it up because she's I think one thing in the comic, but different in the TV show.
Yeah.
I think, or the movies. I'm sorry.
I wonder too if they have a little bit of what her availability is, because the actress Amy Van Camp is actually a main series regular on a hospital show on Fox. Yeah,
love it. Love The Resident. Big fan. Me and my wife watch it every week. So yeah, big fan. Big fan of Conrad Hawkins. All right. Anyways, we'll skip that for now. So third episode, we definitely got to see a lot more action as well. But as you mentioned, a lot of fun with the dance and everything. Do you think we get to see more of that? Maybe it moves back to more action, because there's a very shocking thing that happens at the end of the episode that I also want to talk about. So
I do think they're trying to go with a little more buddy comedy. They were between Bucky and Sam too. Even in episode 2, which wasn't wild about the buddy comedy and kind of the tag team. It feels a little bit, it's not exact, but kind of that Lethal Weapon kind of tone where you have the guys out there and they're very much, trying to solve a case, doing some undercovers. Baron Zemo kind of slid into there. I don't know if you watched as Lethal Weapon went along. They had like the Joe Pesci who came in, and added some fun. And it's not exactly the same, but there were some moments there where he was like, that suit he made Sam.
Yeah.
So I do hope that we're moving toward that and that they're going to maximize that a little bit more.
So since we've already kind of talked about Zemo, and we think that I will say that I don't think he ends up turning on them, but do you disagree with that, right? You think, you're like, what would you cap it at? Are you like 50-50 or
maybe a little bit like a Loki, where when their goals no longer align, he's going to serve himself. He's not going to let himself get put back in prison. Let me put it that way.
I agree with you that way. Yeah, I think I don't know if it's something where like they let him go, or he just kind of finds a way maybe in like the final episode or so to kind of sneak off once whatever's taken care of.
And set himself up for his next, kind of thing.
Yeah. So last but not least here, I wanted to, and I can't remember what her name is, thoughts on who looked to be, in my opinion, a good guy in the Super Serum Soldiers, blows up the thing, killing innocent people.
Yeah.
Which you can tell that the other guy that was with her clearly was not okay with, and they had not discussed, but she said this is the only way that they understand or whatever. You think that's setting up maybe her to be the now new bad guy moving forward?
I think they were setting her up to be the bad guy. She's obviously the one that got all the serum and put them together. And the whole point of their group, which we haven't had a lot of time to explore, seemed to be that life was better during the snap.
Yeah.
Tough look to take. Tough position to take. And what they seem to be doing is attacking the government strongholds that are meant to be providing supplies to help the people that disappeared for 5 years and came back re-ingratiated into society, and taking it for themselves, saying you're stealing our resources.
Yeah.
That would be very much on the Thanos plane of, of plans and of views of the world, which isn't great. And you kind of got that even more when she blew them up and said that, they're stealing from us.
Yeah, which sets up them too with is it the power broker that she's going up against too with that as well? So you get a lot
because she stole from the power broker who had originally commissioned it.
So you've got whoever this power broker is, obviously, is going to probably play a major thing coming down the road here as well. We did get to see a little bit more of Captain America and almost a little bit of a darker side to him as well when he goes into the place that they were. I believe her name is Kylie, if I'm remembering correctly now.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's her real name. I don't remember. But he kind of goes a little bit dark there, but definitely seems like him and I don't remember the dude's name, but it's not a impressive one.
Yeah, I tried to block them out because I don't care.
They definitely seem to be leaning more on Sam and Bucky hopefully being able to do this. And when he kind of makes a comment about, well, we do have Ace in the hole or something like that. So what is so far after, obviously you seemed like you liked episode 1, definitely liked episode 3. Episode 2 seemed to be a little bit of a downer for you. Where are you at now moving into episode 4 coming out this Friday?
His character's Battlestar.
Battlestar, that's right.
I forgot it because it was a forgettable name, and you're right. Carly Morgenthau is the character name. So for our villain, I'm hoping for more of what we saw in episode 3 in terms of those characters working together. It seems like they left Sharon Carter, although we see her at the end get in the car and say she's got work to do. So I don't know when that's going to come back up, but I like seeing the 3 of them playing off. I think we're probably going to have to see them in some way start to clash with Captain America. I feel like the trajectory of these kind of stories is Captain America, the new Captain America tries to bring them on the team. They kind of go their separate ways. In the middle of the season is where they kind of clash and appear to be at odds, but at the end, they're going to have to realize they're on the same side and come together. And then hopefully Captain America dies tragically and Sam takes over.
Oh, man, poor guy. I don't want that to happen, but I am interested to see what ends up happening with the Shield and all that is because it clearly seems like that's what Bucky wants to happen as well. He very much wants.
Well, he pretty much said, "If you won't take it, I will."
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. I do want to bring up one more thing before we go. I have not watched it. I am refusing to watch it. Did you watch the new Loki trailer?
I did watch the trailer. I thought it looked good. It looked interesting. That's another one. I wasn't sure exactly how they were going to go with the show, but you get a little bit more of an idea, but not so much that it gets ruined. I am looking forward to that. I think Hiddleston's good. The other thing I was going to say is they kind of ruin, I believe, the idea that Sam ends up with the Shield, because if I recall, the action figures that they released for Falcon and the Winter Soldier is Sam with the Shield and more of a red, white, and blue uniform.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know, I guess. I did not know that.
I don't know if that was just like some concept art thing that they released and it'll be detached from the show, but I sort of took it as this is where we're going. And I think it is where we're going. I feel like this season is about him wrestling with the idea that he was selected and giving it up because he didn't feel like he was right. But when he sees somebody else taking it, spending a lot of looking deep inside and realizing I was chosen for a reason, it's my job to step up. And whether that's because the new Captain America gets fired, decides to quit, or if I had my way, dies.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to be disemboweled. I'm fine if he gets blown up by that girl.
Going dark here. I want to watch it because I love Loki, and I agree. I think Hiddleston's just an amazing actor. I've seen the first one with
and Owen Wilson's in there.
Owen Wilson. I love Owen Wilson. I'm a massive Owen Wilson fan. Now, so I've seen the first episode where they're going down the elevator together. You don't see much, and I don't want to watch anything else. I don't want anything to be ruined. So, but because it starts up, I think, right? Was it like a week
June
after?
11th.
A week after this ends?
Which would be about right because we're on episode 4. We've got 3 more Fridays, which would put us to 7. So I think there's going to be a gap week again.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Actually, there might be 2 gap weeks because I bet they don't have new content on Memorial Day weekend.
And you know what the worst part about that is too? I think that starts up the week I'm on vacation, so I won't even get to watch it. I think until I get back, possibly.
I don't know. You're going to be at Disney World. Do you think they won't find a way to let you watch a Disney show at Disney World? They'll probably have it. They'll probably have it on the rides while you're going in. They'll just be replaying it because I think they built Marvel World.
But yeah, they have. Just sucks that we can't interact with anybody, but it is. You see the Tom Brady interacting with Kylo Ren thing?
Yeah.
Did you see the meme of the picture?
Yeah.
About what was it? Him standing there, Kylo Ren behind him is like the Jets fan, the nightmare of Jets fans or whatever for like the past decade or whatever, because that being Bill Belichick. That was classic. That was really
probably
funny.
Still is nightmare of Jets fans.
All right, so that will do it for us today. We will be back on Thursday with Dennis and, again, John Lobb of the Draft Bible and SI. We'll be talking about rookie running backs, maybe some mock draft stuff, talk about rookie wide receivers as well. We'll see where the show takes us. But obviously, we will be back then. Should be a lot of fun. Can't wait. That John, like I said, is phenomenal in the fantasy space, has a lot of knowledge. So excited to talk to him. So until then, enjoy. Today's Tuesday. Enjoy your Wednesday. We will be back again on